All right, well, thank you guys for joining this evening. Today we do have a big night here. We are talking and getting coached on productivity or production, like how do we just get things done? And that seems to be, for me, it's one of my favorite things because you get to experience all the time and effort you put in and you get the output coming out. So you get you know, the goals and targets that you hit and, working towards getting all of that. So something I always love doing. I'm always excited about it. So this is something that for all of you guys, you're going to want to take notes if you have a chance. All right, so we are going to get started. All right, so for production or productivity, how do we just get stuff done? It's beginning of the year, so everybody's fresh on saying like what I want to do, what I want to accomplish this year. New decade too, so that's also an exciting thing, right? What do I want to accomplish in the next 10 years? That's like a big target that you see everywhere is, start of the decade. We don't get too many decades in our life, so everywhere you're seeing and you might be reading or hearing people talk about like setting goals and what you can accomplish in the next 10 years because what's already happened in the past 10 years has been like incredible. If you just look for some of you who's old enough, what happened in the past 10 years to now, it's super incredible what we have in our lives now, right? Even looking at the mobile phone, right? From where the iPhone was back then to where it is now, even computers, some of the technology, the apps, right? And they make them so easy, so simple. We even have like Charlotte, our 2.5-year-old, teaching me how to use stuff on YouTube and scrolling through videos and pictures that I didn't know you could do. So in the past, like stuff like that, electronics or technology was, so difficult to understand. And now so easy. So definitely to get what we have now, the people and, the groups and everybody that made that happen had to be super, super productive. Also with, getting stuff done and production, to me, it's the best feeling in the world when you work towards something and you finally get that target that you hit. Maybe you're studying for a test and you take the test and you get an A, and how excited you are when you get, all that hard work and effort that you put in paid off. Or, all of us here are golfing. So maybe you're working on and you're practicing so much to, shoot the score that you want and you finally hit the target score. That's like the highlight and best part of our days a lot of times, because you get to look back and say, well, it was worth it, all that time that I put in, because I'm here now. And then you start setting new ones. A lot of times, we just don't give ourselves enough credit for the productivity that we have and we are accomplishing in our lives already, and that's a huge part because we often take things for granted on when we accomplish things. So when we start achieving, we just kind of pass it by, but the world stops every time we work on something and we don't achieve what we're working for, or if it's taking a little bit longer than what we had anticipated or expected. So we either do one of two things. We either are gonna, continue grinding it out and pushing through, or, we say to ourselves, well, I'm kind of just tired of it. I'm gonna switch direction. I'm gonna go and do something else, or I need a break right now. So, we're gonna go over some definitely strategies and tools tonight that help you understand how to be, more productive in your lives, to achieve more. And tonight, we'll go over some of like the more specific tactical stuff that you can implement, but I do want to get you more on the mindset side of what would get you to become more productive. So when we start learning more tools and specific tactical stuff on, you know, how to become more productive, you'll be able to see those through and understand why you would be able to do it, why, you know, you may have a hard time on some. So today, you know, definitely gonna be a little bit more on the mindset side and psychology side on productivity and production. So just for you guys being here tonight, taking out the time, that's incredible, because that tells yourselves that you're looking to hit like your next level of your life, whether, and golf's all part of your guys' lives, you know, but golf's just one aspect. You guys have to manage your time very well, to be basically keep your sanity, so you're not stressed out in one area. We got, you know, school, we got social life, we got our family, we got our friends, you got your golf. If you play other sports, you have other sports, other commitments. Some of you are in clubs and other outside social stuff, and we get pulled in every which direction. And when we look at like the entire piece, or the entire pie, I guess, right? If you think of yourself as like a circle or a pie, each slice represents one aspect of it. And when we look at how productive we are, it's not that we're never productive, or if we're struggling whenever we're not productive, it's that we oftentimes find ourselves in parts of our lives or in times of our lives where we get super productive in one aspect and, you know, hit tons of goals fast, and others are slower, or sometimes we forget about it because we're spending too much time or a lot of time in one area, and, you know, other areas gets neglected. And then when you neglect stuff, then all of a sudden, you know, it goes backwards, right? If you just leave it alone and doesn't stay still, you like, think about your golf game. If you get to a skill set that you're at now and you never practice or touch anything, even for a week, you don't come back to it where you left off. You are behind where you left off. So if you're not doing anything, then you start moving backwards, right? And it takes a little bit more effort and work to get you back to where you were, and then exceed and start, you know, building momentum again. So, you know, understanding all the different aspects allows you to manage your life a lot better. So you stop neglecting things. You know, we often hear that, you know, I would practice more golf because I would practice more, but, you know, my school or my academics or grades were going down, right? So I got to stop playing golf and I got to focus on school. And, you know, the truth is you don't, right? You can just have tools and strategies that allow you to do both. There's no reason why you stop one and not the other, right? As you get further and you look at, you know, some of the top performers or even athletes out in the world, the top college players, they have certain academic lists that they make, like in college, like the dean's list or academic all-Americans, and they're playing at an extremely high level. If you look at their schedule, they're super busy, right? They're keeping up with their grades, they're keeping up with their performance. They still have their friends, but we get this notion that, or we get told these stories that when you play high level anything or sports, that means you're making huge sacrifices in the time that you have. And the truth is you're not, right? Because you can figure out what needs more, you know, more time, more effort before it gets out of control, where you actually have to say, oh my gosh, I got to just stop doing all of this so I can focus on this, right? By the time you say, I need to stop something, it's already too late, because you don't have a clear picture on where you are at that time. So, you know, that's getting yourself in a more reactive phase. And once you get into that reactive phase, then, you know, the amount of productivity that you'll have is going to be, you know, very, very slim, even when you're spending tons of time in there. So, you know, looking at being like production and productivity, it's just your ability to create value towards, you know, any target or goal that you're trying to shoot for. You know, why is it that we need that? You know, we need that because we're always trying to grow and achieve, right? We never, right? None of you in here should be or are, you know, satisfied with where you're at, or you wouldn't be on this call tonight. You wouldn't reserve the time. If you're excited and happy with where you're at, then you would be doing your own thing, and you say, I really don't need to come on tonight to better my life or better my golf game. So because we're never settled with what we're always trying to achieve more, right? Being understanding tools and strategies about how to be productive and get the most value out of our production is going to be huge. So, you know, we never want to settle for less than what you deserve. You know, as we go, and I'll share with you guys one of my stories is, you know, I've told this a lot of times that even if we're talking about golf and my friends and the peers that I grew up with my brother, right? I was probably one of the worst performing players, even though I spent most of the time and more time and I outworked all of them, right? So when you look at being productive, does that mean being busy and putting yourself to work, or is that just being effective in your time and getting, you know, your targets and goals hit more often, right? So when you look at my productivity or my production early on, I spent much more time. I felt I had to hit more golf balls. I felt I had to, you know, spend more time in my short game. And even in school, right? I didn't get the best grades compared to, like, my sister was always smart. My brother had probably similar grades to me, maybe a little bit better than me, but I felt I always got to read more and study more to achieve what they have. And, you know, it's me putting myself and becoming more busy, right? So I'm super busy. I was always doing stuff, and yet I achieve less. So when you look at the scale of productivity and production, how is it that other people can put, I don't want to say less time, but can space out their time where they're doing maybe a little bit less in the golf, a little bit less in the academics. They're kind of pushing a little bit more in their social life, more time towards things that excites them. And how are they still getting, you know, the results that they're getting, right? And, you know, I felt I just got to keep on going and pushing through and work on the same little things over and over until, you know, I get it, right? I got to get this perfect golf swing is what my whole thought. And growing up, I even got conditioned by everybody, like, oh my gosh, you have such a beautiful golf swing. Keep on hitting golf balls, right? And early on, you hear that kind of stuff. And when you look at it, having a really nice golf swing has nothing to do with getting the ball in the hole. When you look at everybody else that I played with, by far, I swung the club nicer than everybody else, but also by far, I shot the highest score than everybody else. So everybody that I played with had strategies and tools, whether they did it on purpose or not, of being a lot more productive with the time that they had to hit the targets and goals faster than me. And, you know, now I've learned a ton of strategies and tools that, you know, help me accelerate, you know, my golf game, my business, my personal life, just every aspect a lot faster than, you know, what I thought I could have done just with, you know, things that I've been implementing in my life over the last, you know, several years. Another example is, you know, I have a student and she's in college now, but she was always a soccer player, right? She grew up playing soccer a ton, and she golfed probably, I knew her since she was maybe 8 years old. So I knew forever. And she was one of those that came out on the social side, one of those, let's just do it once a week, right? Just because they like playing golf and did like some group coaching and didn't play much and played a little bit. And she got a little bit older. She played a little bit more, but it was never that serious because she was an elite soccer player playing at a really high club level soccer. And her family played a lot of soccer. And it wasn't, and she kind of knew that. And that was pretty straightforward with her saying, well, soccer's my thing, but I also like golf. And so she dedicated like majority of her like athletic time towards soccer, and then whatever she had left, she liked playing golf, so she put it there. So thinking about how productive can you be, right? We think and we get conditioned to say like, you got to start early on to achieve like really, really good results. And the truth is you just have to be able to get the results with the time that you have as fast as you can do it. Does starting earlier make a difference? Yes, of course it makes a difference. But if you're not using your time as effectively as you should, you starting at 7 years old and playing for, I know tons of people that started at 7 years old. I have friends back home on Kauai that started as young as me. They're a few years older and they never stopped playing and they're still playing now. So they've been playing over, must be over 30 years or close to 30 years now, golf. And, you know, their game hasn't changed since before high school. So they had like a middle school game. They had that same game in high school. They had that same game in college, right? And they have the same game now, right? And it's not that they didn't put any time. So time doesn't necessarily equal the result that you want. It's the effectiveness with that time and your ability to hit the outcomes that you want. So going back to, you know, one of my students, she decided in her 10th grade, at the end of her 10th grade year, that she didn't want to play soccer. And that's when she kind of made that switch. And she said, you know, I really like golf. I like that social atmosphere. I like, you know, the team camaraderie on my golf team much more than my soccer. And, you know, that's right around the time that she got her license. So she had a little bit more, I guess, convenience to driving, you know, to go and practice. And so her junior and senior years where she fully like went in to commit to like, you know, I want to play college golf, so I'm going to do whatever it takes. So she was able to figure out a school schedule that allowed her to have, you know, start early. And maybe not all of you can do that, but she went and looked, can I start early? She started early, finished her school days early so she could then, you know, go and practice from lunchtime, right? And she could drive and go. And then she started putting a ton of time in. So going from, you know, a pretty recreational golfer to saying like today or now, this summer of my sophomore year is where I'm going to start putting a lot of time, you know, and putting in the next 2 years. She played on our high school team. She played on our high school team all 4 years, but she played on her varsity team, I want to say, the last 2 years. And, you know, even then, she wasn't like the best shooter of the team. You know, she was probably shooting when she said, I'm going to take this seriously, she was shooting in the mid to upper 40s in her junior year. And occasionally she might get it in the low 40s, but I'd say averaging like 45, 47. You know, occasionally she might shoot, like if she played outside tournament, shoot in the 90s for 18 holes, which would be mid 90s, sometimes the upper 40s. So, but she was dedicated. And in a course of a year, right, she turned that into low 40s. And then over the next year, she turned it into the 30s and the 70s. And in 2 years, somebody that didn't take it that seriously committed for 2 years of her high school life, and then eventually got, you know, a college scholarship to a Division II college, right? So that shows that, you know, it's possible to achieve whatever it is that you want, right? We're just looking for avenues to like hit the targets that we want in these incremental gains and hit them over and over and over again. Eventually, you know, you get to the place that you want to get, you know. And even talking to her, like her dream is not playing at the school that she wants, right? She's there for academics as well, but she does want to play at a higher level, right? So she's even, you know, this first year, she's constantly getting better. Her first season was this past year in the fall, and she played a season of college golf. And her, you know, I saw her just after 6 months. I saw her last summer, and I saw her 6 months later this winter and played golf with her. And, you know, the amount that she's gained just in 6 months, hitting it further, I mean, hitting it straighter, way better control just by being exposed to that environment, but also being excited about wanting to do it, managing her time, and being a lot more deliberate on the actions that she has. So, you know, she made more gains in the last 6 months in her performance than she did in the entire year of her senior year, right? So it shows that escalation process of she's starting to learn how to make better use of her time. And if you look, she's in college and she is studying a lot. She doesn't have more time. Plus she has a job up there too. So she's a college student. She's playing the sport for the school, and she has a part-time job in her free time because, you know, she wants to make some side money. So when you look, she doesn't have time, but she makes time to fit in everything that's necessary and still, being able to perform in all the aspects. She got, I want to say she got all A's in school, or maybe she got all A's and a B. So she got really good grades in college. She did well in her job, where she's going to be going back again and working there again, and, going for her second season or her spring season at school. So doesn't matter where you're at, right? You guys can all do it. You just have to be able to connect to what you guys really want and be able to be as effective with your time as possible. So as we go into some of like the mindset and strategies that I want you guys to get here is, how is it that we become productive in what we want, right? One of the biggest things that I want you guys to get is you need to be consistent with your actions in anything that you're doing, right? So why is it that, if you have good grades in school right now, or you tend to have really good grades, why is it that you have good grades year after year? Is it because you're smart? Maybe, right? Or did you learn to be smart and get good grades, right? Are you consistent with your studies? Is that something that you're doing? Can you look back, right? One little, I guess, assessment that you can look back on, or like question you can ask, is just looking back at the last 4 weeks of your life, right? If you're doing really good in certain areas of your life, if you just look back the last 4 weeks or month, how consistent are you doing what you're doing while you're making, the improvements that you need to do? How consistent are those coming along in those aspects? If you're really good and get straight A's in school, look at your study habits, look at how you're taking concepts and studying and maybe adjusting them, and see how frequent am I doing those things in my life the last 4 weeks, right? And if you're getting straight A's, then it's guaranteed that you have tons of consistency in the patterns that you're doing for studying. Now, if you're one of those that say, I never study, I just listen to it one time and I just get the A, congratulations to you, because I wish I could do that. I had to work for myself. I had to work for the B's that I got, and, it was like a bonus when I got the A. So, so those of you who do get those A's, right? Congratulations, right? Look at the consistent patterns. Those of you who are getting the results that you want in your golf game, right? Think in the last 4 months, did I hit certain targets that I wanted in the last, not 4 months, but 4 weeks? And if you've made achievements that you didn't think you were going to get, or that you set and you hit, look, how frequent was it that I was doing what I was doing to hit these goals, right? It's the consistency that you're doing it that makes the biggest difference. A lot of times what happens, we just get excited and we're like, oh, I really want to do this. I'm pumped up about this new tip that I learned because I hit the ball like really great after this one day. But then all of a sudden you get a day that you don't hit it so well, and all of a sudden you get turned on and you stop. And so it was consistent for maybe a day, 2 days, a week. Then all of a sudden, it gets turned off. And then you look back of, why am I not achieving what I wanted to get? It's because, we're just not doing it as consistently as the other things in our lives that we are getting like massive success with. So look at the areas of your life and say, where am I getting like tremendous and massive success? And you're going to find that consistency is the number one key. Well, I don't know about number one key, but one of the major keys of you getting what you want. So, be super consistent. And as you're being consistent, we also got to understand, just because we're doing it doesn't mean we're going to hit the exact target that we're shooting for. Sometimes we're just like inching a little bit closer, and it's not always like the output that you're getting, meaning you're working really hard to, let's say, to cure your slice, because the ball keeps on curving to the right and you're going day after day after day, and you have this really consistent process for the last, let's say, month, because we're reviewing a month, and it's just not going away. There's some things that are getting a little bit better, but it's still there. or maybe you're working on hitting it a little bit more solid and you're still like kind of thinning it a little bit. You're not hitting it as solid as you want, but you know, you're super consistent at working and you're just not getting the output or the result that you want. And being consistent and, you know, making progress and progression doesn't have to give you the end goal. Sometimes it's just in your head, meaning sometimes it's just a frame or perspective that you've gained, like a something that you just learned that then is going to click tomorrow. So just because you haven't achieved it and you're not seeing that much growth, the perspective that you get of saying, oh, that made so much more sense today that didn't make sense yesterday, right? That helps you make your actions and adjust what you're doing in your daily routine different tomorrow than it was today. So even when you don't hit the targets, right, we also have to look at, you know, the input that comes in and just say, did I just understand it better? Did it click? And, you know, taking that as a huge win, because sometimes you never even get that and you're just confused at the end of the day, right? So and the result might be the same. So you gotta search and look for those little wins, because that's gonna get you to do it tomorrow and then do it again the next day. And you know, the more shifting that you do and, you know, optimizing of you do of your plan as you keep it consistent, then you get the results that you want, right? Another is gonna be, we always talk about, you know, process and journey, right? But you also you have to know the targets. But going into our process and journey, you have to be engaged in the journey as well, right? If you just are so focused on the target and the outcome, you know, our emotions swing too much. Because if you say like, all I want to do is shoot even par from, you know, for my high school team and be able to average even par, and you just focus so much just on the outcome, when you go and play and perform, you will or you won't, right? And if you're pretty far away, you're not going to get it for a very long time. So you're going to be like, I didn't, and that, you know, you get turned off super quickly, and then that, you know, prevents you to gain more momentum, right? It's how do you gain momentum when things are not going as fast as you want, right? And that's what the best do. So you got to get engaged more in the journey. You got to experience more of the day. Sometimes you just got to say, you know, at the end of the day, what is an emotion that I got super excited about, or something that I connected to that, you know, I could share with somebody else, right? If it's worth sharing with somebody else, then, you know, it's something that's really important to you, which means you've succeeded in an aspect of what you're trying to get, right? And what you're trying to achieve, even if, you know, at that point you didn't hit the specific goal that you're looking for. You know, oftentimes, how many of you may, you know, I know for myself, how many times do I have like this big checklist of things that I got to accomplish for the day, and I get through most of them. Sometimes I get through all of them and I feel like, wow, was that it? I thought I would have got more out of that, right? So if you're hitting golf balls and you're working on like trying to hit a specific shot, and, you know, you actually hit a certain shot. Let's say, for example, you're trying to draw or hook the ball, and everything is just going to the right all day long, and you actually hit one that curves to the left if you're a right-handed player, and you draw or hook it, and then you're like, oh, I thought it would have been better than that, right? And then we start judging ourselves. And so engaging in that process and understanding, like, sometimes we got to be a little bit more specific in what we want, or maybe we have too many rules, right? We're thinking, I got to get that ball going right to left, or getting it to draw a hook, but you have this perfect picture in your head of an outcome that it should feel perfectly solid and it should go super far. When at the end of the day, you know, maybe it just has to, you know, curve in that direction first, right? And gain that as a success. Because, you know, if you can't, you know, be engaged and excited about just those little things, and at the end of the day say, wow, I actually did it. It took me so long and I did it, and it doesn't matter what it felt like, I accomplished the task. But we put so many like rules So look back at a lot of the goals that you're trying to hit. Do you have too many rules to make it, you know, nearly impossible to achieve success in the short term? Are the rules that you're putting on all of your targets and goals so far into the future? Yes, we want to have these amazing shots, amazing scores, um, amazing experiences, but you know, how many parameters and rules do I have on that, right? So, you know, an example would be like if I was just trying to go from my house and get to work or get to the golf course in 15 minutes to make my tee time, right? I could get there, and if my rules were, well, my tee time is at 9 a.m. I want to get there at 8:50 just to make sure I don't miss it and can get to the tee box. And at the end of the day, if I get there at 8:50, mission accomplished. But if I have these rules saying like, okay, I got to get there at 8:50, but I need to have my cup of coffee first. But I got to make sure I don't hit that traffic light. I got to make sure I don't get cut off on the freeway. I have to make sure as I'm parking my car, I get the spot that I always get. I got to make sure that when I'm checking in, the person that normally checks me in so I can have that typical weekly conversation with them. Right. So now when I start attaching all of these rules, I hit the outcome of making it on time. But now my experience of teeing off on the first hole is drastically interrupted. And if I'm not in that right mindset going in, because now I'm like, oh man, I got cut off on the freeway. That person took my spot. Oh, Fred's not here. I can't talk to Fred. Right. He's my great conversation. I always have a cup of coffee in the morning because that makes me, you know, feel good and get me energized. And now I don't have it. And then you go up on the first tee feeling miserable. You're not even talking to you know, your playing partners and your friends till, you know, you know, find some kind of fulfillment in what you're looking for. Hold on one second. And so definitely check the rules that you have, right? Sometimes we just got to scale those rules back and, you know, make them realistic for ourselves so we can achieve the goals and move on. You know, another part is going to be like the story we tell ourselves to being productive, right? All of these things are more mindset and psychology about us being able to do and get done what we need to get done. So, you know, the story that we share and we tell ourselves, or in other words, like the identity that we give ourselves, it has 100% effect on us doing what we need to do. You know, who you think you are or who we think we are or we want to be is a big thing, right? If I say, you know, I have this identity and this story that I want to tell myself that I want to be the #1 golfer in the world. And I'm going to do everything that it takes to be the #1 golfer in the world. And I only see that, right? It's great to get your targets off of that and get you excited because now I know where I want to get to. But if that's the only story you tell yourself, that I have to be #1 or it's nothing, then you fall short every single time until you're #1. And that leads you, like if you've ever been playing on the golf course and then you say, man, such a horrible day today. You know, it was so bad. I couldn't hit it anywhere. Worst experience ever. I never play like this. And today was the day that it, like everything, if something that could go wrong went wrong, it had to be today, right? And it's just a very, I mean, you're telling yourself and you're even sharing with your friends, you're sharing with your family, like it couldn't have got any worse than today till you get a day that beats that day. And then that day becomes your new story, right? So we have this identity and we want to achieve so much that if we only base it on that, then we start creating this image of ourselves that I can't see myself any less than what I want to be. And when we start looking through that lens, then it's hard for us to see the reality and like get the clarity around, you know, where's my realistic skill set and capabilities that I have right now. Because you're always gonna, if you're looking through that lens, you're always thinking of yourself better than what you really are. So when you're starting to figure out what is it that I can work on and what is it that's going to be most productive, the things that you really need to work on, you're going to tell yourself the story, I'm already good at that and I don't need to work on that. Today was just a bad day, right? I know I've said that to myself tons of times. I even, you know, catch myself doing it now, you know, on certain aspects of my life or on my golf game, like, oh, I never putt like that, or I never hit balls like that. That never comes out. I don't need to practice that right now. So you disregard that when the reality is, like, I have this belief for myself that, oh, I'm a great putter, right? The truth is I never practice putting because it doesn't excite me to practice putting. And when I have these like off days in putting and I just don't have that much control, you know, my story is like, well, I'm a better putter than that. It was just a bad day. And then it happens again. And then it happens again. It's like, well, I guess my putting is just not as good as I think it is, right? But how much faster could I have cleaned that up by just saying like, well, the truth is the last 4 months, I've never even touched my putter when I practiced, and all I did was hit drivers. All I did was hit, you know, approach shots. And I not once touched my putter. If I looked at it through that lens, like, oh, no wonder my putting was off, right? Which means if I play again, it's probably going to be off again. So maybe I should go get my putter and start putting that into use, because if I don't use it, it gets worse. But many times in all these different aspects, we have this, again, it's our identity and belief that we're telling ourselves that I shouldn't be doing this. It's horrible. And I'm playing worse than what I am, when we actually have to look, you know, clear into the mirror and say, well, it doesn't matter if we feel that we're better than what we are, or we're better than the performance that we have. We just have to say, well, this is the performance that came up, and I'm going to look at the measurements that I've been taking to see, has my putting been, you know, above what I'm expecting time and time again over the last several rounds, or was it the fact that I've been putting, you know, at this level for the last 5 rounds, and today my putting was higher. Maybe the greens were a little bit more tricky, right? You have a little bit more validation behind the truth that you're telling yourself, instead of just saying like, I should be better. I never sliced the ball, or I never, you know, top shots. I never thin shots. When the fact is, if it's coming up over and over again, you do it, and you should be, you know, putting that into a strategy to overcome. So that's a lot to do with just your identity and belief in the story. So always get clear on who you are first. You know, it's easy for us to see where we want to get to. The most difficult thing for us to do is just look in the mirror and say like, this is where I'm at now, regardless of what it feels like. We don't like to feel bad. We don't like to feel like we're struggling. We always want to feel like we're achieving something. That's just our human nature, that we don't like to struggle. We always want things to be easy, when a lot of times we just gotta look, it's sometimes it's going to be hard, because the truth is my golf game is like this. And if I want it to do better, then I have to do something differently. I heard this, I forget who it was from, but I don't want to say it's a quote, but it was a saying that they said. It's, hold on, I wrote it down in my notes here. So I do want to share that, because I thought it was like a really cool thing. So they had said, it's our skills and capabilities that got us to the point that it's our skills and capability that got us to the point we are today. You know, but it's not the skills and capability that's going to take us to our next level of life, which means we always make tremendous growth, and we look at the achievements that we made, and we assume because we achieved so much, it's easy for me to hit these targets. And if I'm implementing the same tools and strategies that got me here today, I'm going to assume that it's going to take me to my next level. And the truth is, if you hit a point where your game or your life is kind of just flatlining like this, that means the tools and strategies that got you to this level, that's all it's going to get you to. It's not going to take you doing it more of this level of your strategy isn't going to take you to the next level. So I really like that one because it gets you to see clearly, like sometimes like things just get hard and we're looking at, I just got to do more of what I'm doing to get myself through. And that's me growing up as a junior golfer and even in college. I just got to hit more golf balls, working on the same drill or working on the same golf club or working on the same putting thing. But the truth is, those are the tools that got me to the level in high school that got me into college. I never saw a golf coach in college to be able to say, this is what's going to take you to the next level, right? I went off of, I made tremendous progress in my junior golf. I achieved all this stuff. And those are the tools that's going to get me. And in fact, the scores that I put in college were the same level for every year that I played in high school, right? My game just didn't go up. It's not that I didn't put time. I put tons of time, but I was just working on the wrong stuff, right? So it's me being busy and not effective. So looking at and continue on with your identity. Identity is going to be huge for all of you here, because when you look at your identity, you always, you want to see the big picture. Where is it that you want to be? Because if you know where you want to be, it allows you to look at the thing that I'm doing right now. Does it fit in that picture of achieving like the next level of, let's say, your golf game? I'm shooting in the mid 40s, but I want to shoot even par for the first time. So I'm at 7, 8, 9 over par, and I want to get it down to a scratch golfer. And I'm understanding some of the tools and strategies to get me there, but what am I working on? Does it fit in that big picture of like who I want to be, right? And if you really, really are connected to that identity of the person that you want to be, right, you're going to create the time, you're going to create the excitement, you're going to create, the resourcefulness of you searching around to see, like, am I doing what I need to be doing to get there? So, creating this identity of yourself, just to say, whatever it is that I'm doing, does it fit in this big picture? Because if you can say, yes, it does fit in this big picture, and you're truly connected to that identity, it's something that you really want, then you're going to stick it through, even when it gets hard, even when it gets difficult, even when it gets tired, even when it gets overwhelming, stressful, and it's just not working, because you're going to see that even though it's hard yet, it didn't quite click. I'm going to continue to ask questions. I'm going to continue to figure out how to achieve this little, process goal or mini goal of mine to achieve the big one, right? And I'm going to do whatever it takes to get there, even as hard as it gets to. So, see how it fits in the big picture so you can maintain and push through it and do whatever it takes to get there. A lot of times it's just our lack of clarity and seeing what is it that we really want, right? If you go and we're talking about our golf game and you say, I want to be able to scratch golfer and shoot even par. And then I ask you the next questions on like, okay, so what's your plan to get there? What are you doing? What do you have in place right now that you can just tell me that's going to get you to where you're at? And if you say, well, I got to go hit more balls, I got to, work on hitting it more solid, I got to work on, eliminating my 3 putts, I got to work on hitting it further off the tee, and you come up with this big long list that's just these generic topics, right? That's a ton different than, well, if I'm shooting 45 and I want to get to even par and I want to drop 9 strokes in 9 holes, then you say, well, when I play 9 holes, I typically hit 2 balls out. So I'm losing 2 to 3 shots, maybe 4 shots just on tee shots because my ball is curving too much to the left this time. So I got to be able to practice drivers and hit it between a window 90% of the time of 60 yards wide. That keeps me in bounds where I don't lose golf balls, right? That's super, super clear on what target you need to do. It's not just hitting balls and making it curve, right? Or, you know, when I'm putting, I'm 3-putting too much because, you know, my putts are always like 50, 60 feet when I'm chipping, right? So then you're saying, I'm not just chipping, I'm working on specific directional and contact where I can control my distance to fall within a speed window of going at, you know, if I'm just off the edge of the green, staying within 15 feet of the hole, right? So if you're looking at, if you're trying to achieve really high success in golf, think about the plan that you currently have. Are you in the category that just says, you know, I got to go hit more balls, I got to get solid contact so it goes in up in the air, I got to hit further shots, I got to get my ball moving into a draw versus a fade, you know, I just got to get up and down more often, get more 2s and or maybe get 3s instead of 4s. If you're in that category, it's going to take you an extremely long time because you're just not clear on exactly what you need, because now you have this extremely long to-do list that goes on forever and you don't know what's most important. All right. I heard another, it was like an example that an analogy somebody had shared. And, you know, I thought it'd be perfect for you guys tonight is, you know, think about riding an airplane, right? And taking a trip to a destination. So let's say you all want to get to Hawaii, but in order to get to Hawaii, we have to first fly through all the states to get there. So we know the destination. We're excited about, oh, Hawaii has beautiful weather. The beaches are beautiful. The sand's clean. The water's clean. You know, the mountains are beautiful. You know, even when it rains, it's warm. The rain is beautiful, right? Whereas over here, it's freezing when it's raining. So you have this super excitement about wanting to go to Hawaii, but you got to stop at every single state before you get there. So at every stop, you have bags that you have to pick up. So think about the bags that you have as the tools or the drills or the activities that you're going to bring with you. You know, a lot of times what got in that one, you know, story or quote from that one person, what got you to where you're at now doesn't always get you to the next level. So a lot of times we outgrow the current skills that we have. So if you try and bring them all with you and you're hitting every single state and you're learning more things along the way, imagine how many bags you're going to have and the overwhelm that you're going to get just by picking up one extra bag on each stop that you make, right? So every time you stop and unload, you have to think, what bag is going to serve me towards like the big picture that I see that's going to fit, and what bag no longer serves the purpose of getting me to where I want to go. It may have been super good advice that got me here, but is it, is it what's going to get me to the next one, right? So then we start learning, we hit the next destination, we're learning new stuff. What was that new stuff? Is that serving the purpose of taking me to the next level? Or is that not right for me right now? Or is that something that's old, right? So keep it as lean as possible is the purpose of this story. You can't take everything with you, because if you take everything with you, that's when stress, overwhelm, I don't have time, and I'm doing everything that I can. If you've ever gone to a practice session and spent, you know, tons of time there, and maybe you've been hitting balls just the entire time, and you've gone through like a million different like thoughts in your head in different ways. Oh, I remember this tip I heard like last year that made a big difference. You're working on that. No, I saw this thing on the Golf Channel that did this. No, and now you're just getting a headache because you're going through so many different things in your head. You know, so you got to have super clarity on where you're at, where you need to go, so you can, you know, organize and take with you what really serves. And sometimes we just got to step out and look from the outside in. What's going to serve me to that next level, and what can I toss and leave behind? Because too much information and too much things and too much knowledge that you're trying to apply at the same time doesn't get you there faster. You know, and going on with that as well, it's the same reason why we get distracted, right? Distractions are just a story and belief that we tell ourselves to let us escape the emotion that we want to feel. We get distracted more often because, you know, it's easier to get distracted. It's easier for me to take out my phone and check stuff and get immersed in this for a really long time. It's easy for me to like say I'm going to watch an episode on Netflix and then I watch the entire season because, you know, it's giving me that sense of fulfillment right now. If you step back, and I've done it, I've sat down and watched the entire season of things on Netflix in a single sitting, and then I slept for the next day and a half. But there's times that, you know, are you doing it on purpose, or are you doing it just because you get engulfed and you want to escape and get away, right? So, you know, we can always ask ourselves the question before you do something: is this going to serve, you know, the best purpose in my life at this moment, right? Whatever it is, whether it's golf, whether it's school, whether it's, you know, you getting closer to your personal life, your friends, your family, you know, when you ask yourself that question before you do anything: is this going to serve me at the level that I need to go today, right? Then you make it a conscious decision. If you make it a conscious decision, it's much easier to see the consequence. A lot of times we feel the effect of the consequence because, oh, you know, I shouldn't have watched all that TV. I shouldn't have played on my phone. I should have practiced back when to prepare myself better. And we understand the consequence. But if you ask yourself the question, see the consequence in advance. If I do this today, this is the direction I'm going to go. If I do this other thing, this is the direction I'm going to go. There's, you know, there's benefits of going this way, benefits going this way, there's consequences of going this way, and you're looking, can I live with the consequence of going in one direction? And if you make it that conscious decision, it becomes much easier to say, well, I want to watch this TV show right now, but, you know, I think I'll have time on Saturday to do it. Today I have this block where I can go practice golf with a friend of mine, or I can go outside in the yard and chip around for a little bit because I know in a month I have a tournament coming up. I know in 2 months I have a tournament coming up and I want to practice, right? So schedule everything in and see the consequence in advance and make it a very conscious decision on what you're going to be doing. And if you see that, it's much more difficult to select the things that's just easy and gives you that, you know, immediate satisfaction. And then you're like blaming yourself at the end. So, excuse me. So, as we talk, distractions is a huge part. So I do want to spend, I know we're getting close to time right now. So thank you guys all for being patient with me. Is there anybody that want to share any kind of distractions that comes up in their life so we can coach you guys through what it is and how to deal with that? Raise your hand. Come on. I'm going to just pick somebody. Who do I see on here? All right, I'm going to pick. We'll pick Charlie. So Charlie, you get to share. And hold on one second. Let me unmute you here.
Might be background noise because my dog's kind of barking.
All right. Hi, Charlie. So everybody wave hi to Charlie. So we got blessed with Charlie's participation tonight and joining us this evening. So to make the most of it, all right, Charlie. Can everybody see Charlie? All right. So what do you think? What's one thing?
The biggest distraction would probably be my phone because every day I have it on me, and sometimes it's good for contacting, scheduling, but other times you just find yourself watching videos or looking through Instagram on the daily. But I would say anything like that has a screen, really.
Away.
Well, you kind of find yourself trying to stay on task, but then after a while, you also find yourself like going on and on, but then like something else pops up and your curiosity peaks higher.
Okay, cool. So if let's just reuse that one example, right? And say every time your curiosity peaks when you're on your phone, you just ask yourself the question, is this going to serve me at my next level to get me closer to my next level tomorrow or today, right? Is this going to serve me today? That's going to help me get me a step closer tomorrow, right? And your answer is going to be yes or no, right? Sometimes you're going to be like, maybe you're totally stressed out. And it's like, man, I just got to like get something that kind of excites me and gets me laughing again. And your answer is going to be, heck yeah, I want to go see some funny stuff on Instagram and see what like my friends are posting. But then your answer might also be like, actually, the pattern is if I see this one, I'm probably going to watch 5 more. And then I'm going to go on YouTube and I'm going to watch these videos. And then, 2 hours go by and like, oh my gosh, what happened to all the time? Right. So just diving in and before you even open it, like just when your curiosity sparks, you're just saying, well, is this going to serve, my next level today? Right. And going back to identity, if you're not connected to the identity that you want to become, of who you want to become, then your answer is going to be, heck yeah, this is going to serve me every single time. But if you get super connected to like, if I want to, be the best golfer on my team, or I want to be able to hit this score by this date, I want to be the number 1 player on my varsity team, or I want to play in college. It's just me watching this video going to serve me to get me there, right? And maybe it's a golf instructional video. Yes, it's going to get me there. But now if it's a golf trick shot video, maybe not, right? Because trick shots may not help you, but it's kind of amusing. Or maybe if it's like funny dogs, maybe not, right? So you asking yourself that question. But also even building in habits, what can you do to build in there so you don't even have the urge to pull your phone out, right? A lot of times it's just a habit that we're just walking, as we're walking, we like pull it out and we're like, okay, I'm going to be using my phone. And then we carry that phone into the next activity that takes us away from what we're supposed to do. So you can create, little triggers, meaning every time you sit down at a desk, you put your phone away, right? So now when you pull it out, it's intentional to pull it out. So if you're walking, right, you can be on your phone and say like, this is my time that I can be on my phone, walking, talking with my friends, like searching some funny stuff. The moment, every time I sit down, that's my trigger, put my phone back in my pocket. And now I'm going to be super intentional. If I need it, I'm going to use it for this. If I don't, then you don't get caught up, right? You can create, there's ringers on your phone and timers. You can create timers on your phone. So if you're using your phone way too often, right? And you, let's say during the day, it's the same periods of time that you need to get stuff done, right? You set alarm before that block saying, when you hear this alarm, that's when you put your phone down no matter what. So then you can start on time and you don't get carried away. So stuff with like phones, distraction, all of that stuff we do on a regular basis, so we can predict like when do we get the urge to get it, right? So all you do is know in advance what might happen, then you build a habit around what just happened, and then you make that your consistent habit, right? If you just do it one day, I guarantee it's not going to do anything. But if you make that your consistent habit, you know, sitting down triggers, alarm triggers, maybe walking into the classroom, as soon as you go into the classroom, put it away. If you ever walk into class, got the teacher, you know, yelled at you, put your phone away, right? That by itself takes you out of your mental frame, because like, oh my gosh, she overreacted again, or he overreacted again. I was about to put it away, but they caught me first. And now you're, you know, it takes you like 15, 20 minutes to get back into that, right? Or, you know, stepping out of the car. The moment I step out of the car, put my phone away. The moment I step on a golf course, put my phone in my bag. And you create these little triggers. So now you put the distraction away and you make those the habits. So easiest way to help with these kind of things is you just need to create habits to, you know, reprogram the trigger that gets you to pull them out in the reaction. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. There's also like you can change your phone. Like if you go into settings, there's like you can see the hours like you've been on certain apps, and you can set like times on when you need to go to bed, like for your phone kind of thing.
Yes, and those are all like convenience, but I'll tell you why they don't work as well as you would think they work. Because you own the phone and you have the option to say, nope, I'm going to continue doing it. And you have that option, right? Even though you're making a conscious choice, the app doesn't get you to stop and do something differently. It gives you a moment to pause and reflect, to say, I have choice now to say, am I going to continue or not, right? So you want to build something that gives you more choice more often, instead of keeping you stuck in that world. So no more phones that pull us away from productivity. All right, Charlie. Well, thank you for sharing. And I'm gonna mute you back here. All right, so I know we're a little bit over. I'm gonna show you one last, this is more like on a tactical side. So the whole last about hour or so was on just more the mindset, the psychology behind it. I do want to give you at least a little bit of strategy. So you have the mindset, but now like, what am I gonna do with this mindset? I don't know what to do, right? So the strategy here is, if you've ever heard of the 80-20 principle, it's also referred to as Pareto's law. If you have not heard of that, write down the name 80-20, or write down the name Pareto, Pareto. The guy's name is Vilfredo Pareto. He's he's from the 1800s. He's an Italian economist that had this principle that he came up with, right? He called it the 80-20. And I don't know if he first came out with it, but he's the one that made that famous, right? There's books written about it. It's huge in the business world. It's huge everywhere. But basically, the 80-20 principle, what that tells you is 80% of your outputs will come from only 20% of your inputs, which also translates into only 20% of the action that I'm actually doing is going to get me 80% of the way there. A lot of times you think productivity means I'm going to put this in, I'm going to put 1 unit in, get 1 unit out. Maybe I'll put 1 unit in, maybe get 2 or 3 units out, get a little bonus. But what they're saying is, I'm going to just put like 20% of what I have of the action that I could take, and I'm going to get almost the whole way there. So off of 20%, you're winning the game already, right? How does that come in. It's, he had a study way back when, I believe it was his study. My apology if I'm incorrect if it was his, but there's a pea pod study and experiment that was done saying that, this principle had come out saying that, back in the days in farming, you know, 80%, or I'm sorry, 20% of the peas on a farm produce 80% of the entire like fruit that they could eat or the vegetable that they could eat, right? Out of everything that came out of a season, only 20% of the actual plants produce 80% of the actual crops that they harvest, meaning that the other 80% of the plants that came out either died or didn't produce much, right? It went further into even like the economics of finance. 80/20 is like the bare minimum of what this study shows, and it's used everywhere. Like if you look at the world of wealth, I think the number is something like 1 or 2% of all the money. I'm sorry, 99% of all the money that's in this world comes from like 1 or less than 1% of the population. You look at any kind of sports team or sports, it's less than 1% of the entire population of who play the sport that plays it at the very, very highest level. So a lot of this stuff you can see everywhere. There's studies that say, even on like sales teams in the business world, that the amount of sales comes in from only 20% of the salespeople. 80% or more of the sales that come in for any given company comes from 80%. I'm sorry, 80% of the sales that come in from a sales company comes from less than 20% of the actual sales team. So look, even in the accomplishments that you've gotten so far in your life, a lot of like the big gains that you've gotten or have just come from like little small shifts that you made that made the most sense. Like a strategy that I'd read for studying that falls upon like the 80/20 principle is, if you have books and at school that give you, or any kind of learning books that give you like summaries at the end of the chapter, the summaries give you 80% of the content or more. So one of the most effective ways in a few of these research things that I've read in studying and being able to comprehend in the shortest amount of time is read chapters backwards. You go into your books, you go straight to the summary notes, you look at what are the key points in the summary notes, and then you scroll back through the chapters and you just study those key points and you read and get really, really good at those. And just by doing that, that gets you a minimum of 80% there, instead of reading the entire chapter, right? So now if you get 20% of your efforts there, you save tons and tons of time, which means you may find other strategies to fill in the other 20% to get you, the 100% that you're looking for. But if you can get there with only 20% of your actions, right, then you're not reading every single word in the entire chapter to get that A, right? You're starting with the best 80% that gets you all the way there by only doing 20% of the actions. And then, finding what's the next mover to get me the other 10, 15, and 20% to get me all that work done, right? So how does that apply to like what we're doing in golf? We're always looking to achieve goals. So we're looking at, if I'm trying to get to a scratch golfer, you're looking at, there's a million things that you can list down that says, well, I can work on hitting it solid with this drill. I can work on making the ball curve with this drill. I can make it go further with this one, right? And you can list tons and tons of things right down the list. And if you go ahead and say, this is the outcome that I want, and this is the milestones that I need to hit, then you break down all the tasks that you need, or the action items that you need to do, and you look at the entire list, and then you can see the big picture and saying, like, out of all of these things, based on how clear you are with your picture of where you are and where you need to go, you can then say, well, this one little thing here, if I can do this one objective here, then all of these other ones will take care of itself. It might be a little bit harder. Sometimes it's easy, we don't know, but sometimes, you know, you're looking for the ones that replace like multiple things. What's the one thing that I can accomplish that's going to replace the rest of them, right? So you're compounding and stacking instead of working on each individual component, right? So a lot of times we find ourselves working and being and trying to be really busy on getting all of these to-dos done. I gotta go hit this many balls with my driver. I gotta hit this many balls with my 7-iron. I gotta hit this many hooks, right? When you look at what's the actual outcome that you're trying to achieve, right? So taking the 80-20 principle and looking at it from a high overview frame, then saying what's the most important things, because the most important things is where I want to focus most of my time, right? Because there's things that you might see and you can leverage like that principle and say like, well, is there anything on that list that I might not be able to accomplish, but there's a beneficial side effect? And what that means is, can I be shooting for this target and working on these things in my golf game that even if I don't get it tomorrow, if I don't get it at the end of the week, if I don't get it at the end of the month, it's giving me other skills that I have to develop along the way, right? And those are the things that we're talking about that kind of helps you in that 80-20, because now you're building other skills that get you to bypass other just to-do items without you actually putting them on the list to do. So, always ask yourself the question to help you through, like, what should I be working on? Are there any things on this list that I should be doing that, have these beneficial side effects? Can I get better at this skill even if I don't accomplish the goal, right? So you're not wasting your time. And you may say, well, I did it for a month and it's not where I want to go, but you don't waste a month because you've gained 1, 2, 3, 4 other skills along that process, even if you didn't hit the goal. So you hitting targets isn't always the answer, right? It's you building the skill. So, use the 80-20, and then you start looking at, when we start building, productivity lists of how am I going to plan my day, we don't plan like individual items, we plan outcomes. So there's a huge difference between you setting an outcome to accomplish versus you setting a list of to-do things. For example, we would say, let's just say we'll stick on the golf and we'll say, I have this to-do list that I want to curve the ball right to left. So I want to hit a hook if I'm a right-handed golfer. And my to-do list is, all right, I have to understand how my swing path or direction is going to go. I got to understand how my club face has to point relative to my swing direction. So that's 2. Then I also got to be able to do where I hit the ball on the club face. And then I got to be able to hit the ball in the air. I got to hit it solid. And I got to hit it 150 yards, right? And that's going to give me, that's my to-do list for me to learn how to hook the ball or draw the ball and hit it 150 yards, right? That would be like an example of a to-do list, right? So I got to do this, this, this. If I do all of this, I get my goal. Whereas creating outcomes is, at the end of the day, what is it that I want to get? Right? What is it going to excite me, right? My outcome, instead of thinking that, my outcome is going to be, I just want to be able to hit the ball right to left. How can I bypass most of the steps so I can learn how to hit it right to left first, right? So then I would say, well, my outcome is go right to left. Do I have to learn how to hit it solid off the ground? The answer is no. I'm going to pop that thing on a tee. Do I have to learn how to do it myself on working on the swing direction and face direction. No, I'm going to put little obstacles in the way to force my swing to go a certain way so I get feedback, right? So again, it's going back to our rules, but when you set outcomes, right, all I want to do is learn how to hit a hook today, right? It's way different than for me to hit a hook or a draw, my swing direction has to do this, my club face does this, my club has to enter ground this way, I got to hit it this place on the club face, right? That's how you get to my ball is curving, but you're not fulfilled because we hit it more on the toe this time, or we hit a little thin this time. So set outcomes that give you the fulfillment, because that allows you to not go through all of the to-do lists, and you achieve the outcome, you get the fulfillment that you're looking for, and right, you get the success for the day. So that is my little piece of more strategic, how you're going to build your plan. 80-20, everything that you do, look at it, Pareto's law, go check it out. Finally, I want to leave you with just a little bit of gratitude. How does gratitude fit into the picture of production? So sometimes we just get days that we feel like we didn't achieve anything, and instead of just saying, oh my gosh, this is just the worst day in the world, what can you do when the day's over? There's nothing that you can search for. And one of my big things that I always say, like, you can always find something that went well today, but sometimes we're in such an off frame of mind that we just don't want to search for something that we went well, because in our perspective, it wasn't that great, and we don't want to celebrate that. So if that happens, right, and just in general, you need to practice gratitude. And what that means is just being grateful, being thankful, for the small things that you have in your life, right? Be thankful and grateful for, things that you've accomplished in the past, right? If it all fails, you can at least end the day with gratitude. And gratitude is something that you should make. If you're not doing it already, you guys all have a journal, keep it in journal, write something that you're grateful for every single day, right? Write a list. Because just the science behind being grateful means if you're not grateful for the things that you already accomplished in your life, or the things that you already have in your life, then you're never going to appreciate the things that you're going to achieve tomorrow, which also translates into, as you're trying to be more productive, you're never going to hit the achievement and the fulfillment in achieving what you're looking for. So you're never going to be enough if you can't be grateful for what you have today and what you've already accomplished. So if you're not practicing that, right, jump in and start that practice. That would be the first thing to do. Be grateful for what you have. Start logging that stuff down and getting in there, because the worst thing that can ever happen is you start achieving more and more, and you can't get enough because you can't get fulfilled enough by, the achievements. And, you're just going endlessly up, but there's no fulfillment, right? And so I have a lot of favorite quotes, but one of my other favorite quotes, I don't know if it's a quote, but a saying, but like Tony Robbins is one of my favorite people to listen to, as he always says, what does he say? I'm going to kind of paraphrase, but he always says, life without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. Meaning, if you can't appreciate the things that you achieved or already have, and you continue to achieve, but you don't get fulfilled by the achievements that you get, then you never win, right? Then every single day is a day of depression, and you're not enough. So start practicing just the stuff that you're grateful for, and the little things, just walking outside and saying, beautiful weather today. It's not raining. It might be a little bit cold, but not raining, right? Or it's sunny today. It's warm. Some days you're like, oh my gosh, it's so hot. It's 100 degrees out here. But going outside and just saying, oh, wow, what if it was like -30 like other parts in the country during the winter? 100 degrees would feel beautiful right now if you were them. So start appreciating the little things that you have. So that becomes a habit of yours to then appreciate the small incremental gains that you're putting in, you know, the production in your life, the habits that you're building in, the little tiny incremental gains that over time get it to overflow the cup to eventually hit the targets and goals that you want. So that is my coaching tonight on productivity and production. So thank you guys all for joining. Sorry, I'm looking at my time. Thank you guys for being patient with me and staying all the way to the end. I know it's a school night and I do appreciate you guys all being here. Thank you guys, and we'll see you on the next one. Have a good night.